In this episode, I want us to work on our NavBar so that we have a nice structure like this one. So on light mode, it will be like that. On dark mode, it will be like that. The first thing that we can do is to display the name of the application at the top here together with that icon. So the first thing that I have done is to download the icon. You'll go to the layout and we will customize our metadata. So instead of create next app right here, we will make use of stay savvy. So stay savvy, and right here we will add a better description. You can add a more detailed one, but I'll just say book a hotel of your choice, just like that. And now for us to add that icon so that it shows at the top there, I'll say right here icons, and I'll use a full colon. I can use these curly brackets, and I'll say icon full colon, and right here I'll say that this is at stroke logo.svg. okay, and I go ahead and save. Now still it doesn't show, and I think we need to delete this favicon right here, which is for Next.js. So I'll go ahead and delete that one. I delete, and let's refresh, and look, it shows at the top right there. So for now, ignore these hydration errors. I don't think they'll be causing any major issues. So let's just proceed. Okay, now we have that part done. We can proceed. We will go back to our NavBar component. So inside components, layout, NavBar, right here, I'll add a class name, and we'll say sticky top 0, and we'll add a border. Then we'll say border color. So border at the bottom, and we'll specify the color will be primary, and we'll say stroke 10, and then right here we'll say BG is secondary. Now I'll go ahead and save, and we come back right here, and you'll see now we have that border like that. And we will create a container so that our NavBar, you see it has some spacing at the very end. And if our screen was larger, actually my screen is larger, it's just that I have highly zoomed in. So if I happen to zoom out, you'll notice that we have spacing at the end, and the container here remains intact. Okay, so I will reset that. Right at the components, at the root of components, I'll add a new file, and I'll say container.tsx. Right here, stateless functional component, we'll say container, and right here let's add a div. This div will accept children, so children, and we bring in those children as props. So children, we add the type for this one. They will be of type react node. Inside this div we will add a class name, and we'll say max hyphen width of 1920px. We will say width is full, and margin along the x-axis will be auto XL. On larger screens we want to add some padding along the x-axis of 20, and right here I'll add a default padding along the x-axis of 4 and along the y-axis of 4. So that will be our container component. We bring it in our NavBar. So right here we'll make use of that container. Make sure it's from stroke container. We have these other ones, so make sure it's the correct one, and we wrap our content now with this particular container. Go ahead and save. Okay, now if I check, our app looks like this, which is weird. This is our NavBar. Then we have this extra content right here. So that extra content is coming from this page, this default page right here. So app page, but basically our NavBar should be at the top, even if we have this particular content. Therefore, let's go to the layout here and we'll change how we are working with our navbar. The thing is, inside the body here, I'll do like this. I'll bring in our navbar to be inside the body, and then I'll actually add a main tag. So I'll say main, and I take my navbar and the children in there. First of all, I'll save to auto format. By the way, I'm using prettier to auto format in case you are wondering, and I have set it to auto format on save. So this is the structure so far. We have the main, and then we have the navbar and children in here. What I'll do is that I'll add a class name to this main, and I'll say flex. Then I'll flex column mean height will be screen, and then we'll set a bg of secondary. So this is supposed to be flex, and I go ahead and save. And right now you can already see that our navbar have shifted to the top here, and also I'll be wanting this to occupy the entire of this section after the navbar. So right now, if I say here section, and I take our children in here, and I happen to save, let's add a class name right here to test. So I'll say class name, and I'll say bg-red-500, and when I save, you'll notice that this is our main content, but it's occupying only this distance. I want it to occupy the rest of the spacing just after our navbar. So to do that, at this section tag, we will add a class name of flex -grow. I save, and now that occupies the rest of the spacing, and we can remove this color now. That was just for testing. So yeah, very nice, and I save. So now we have the navbar at the top. Content will be right here where we will list our hotels. I'll close that file, go back to the navbar, and we can continue now working on our navbar. So the first thing that we need to have right here is our logo, just like this. Then we'll have this sign in and sign up buttons on this side, and whenever we are logged in, we will show this user button. Okay, so I will start with the logo here, and I'll do that by adding a div. Inside this div, we'll be having two things, the image and another div for the name. So right here, we can add the image just like that. This image accepts several props. Actually, we should be importing this image from next image. So make sure it's from next image and not from Lucid React. I import that. Then this SRC will be equal to stroke logo.svg, and it expects us to have an alt. We'll say this is the logo, and then right here we'll have a width. We'll set the width to 30, and it also expects us to have a height. Okay, make sure you close nicely, a height, and we'll set the height to be also 30. I save, and that should show the image right there, which is awesome. And now we need to have another div right here, and this will say stay savvy, which is now the name of the hotel. You can give it a nice font and so on, but I'll just leave it like that. So right here we'll add a class name, and we can just say font to be bold, then text to be XL, and we now have this stay savvy just like that. So they need to be side by side. So right here at the parent div, we add a class name. We'll say flex, and then we will have items at the center. We'll add a gap of 1. Cursor will be pointer. If I save, you'll see now they are side by side. Right here, whenever we click on the logo, so we'll add an on-click event. So whenever we click on the logo, I want us to go to the home page. So I'll do this, then I'll have an arrow function, and I'll say router.push I invoke that and I'll go to the home page. Now we don't have this router, therefore we need to bring it in. So we'll make use of the use router hook. So before the return statement, just say use router. Make sure you bring it in from next navigation and you invoke it. Once you invoke it, you'll say const router is equals to use router, and that will clear the error, and I save. So whenever we click on this, it will always take us to the home page, which is good. Yeah, that is it for this logo part. The next part that we can add is this sign in and sign up. We will work on this later on when adding the dark and light mode. So right here, I'll be having another div. I'll have a div again here, and this now will be for the theme toggle. So we'll work on that later on. And then right here, we will have the user button. So let's add that user button like that. And if we are not logged in, we will have the sign in and the sign up button. So how do we know if we are logged in or not? So Clerk provides some hooks which we can use to get the user ID. So at the top here, just after our router, we can have const, and we will extract user ID, and we'll say that this is from use of, and this use of comes from Clerk Next.js, and we invoke that. And now we have a user ID right here. So if we don't have a user ID, that means that we are not logged in. And if you are not logged in, we will show the sign in and the sign up button. So right here, let's just perform a check, and we'll say user ID and. So if that is true, let's have these React fragments, and we'll show now a button. Remember, we had installed this button from Shadcn, so bring it in, and you can also actually duplicate it like that. This will be sign in, and this one will be sign up. Right here we will have variants. So the variant for sign in will be outline, and then for sign up will be the default variant. We can also add a size for the button. So I'll say size will be SM, meaning small. Then the size for this one will also be SM. Now another thing is that we will need to add the on-click events. So right here we'll say on-click, and we'll pass the router here dot push. This will take us to the sign in page. So sign -in. I can just copy this on click just like that, and I include it right here, and this will take us to sign up. If I save, it doesn't show, and that is because we made a mess here. We will say if user does not exist, that is when we want to show these two, and I save. And now look, we have sign in here, and we have the sign up right there. Here at this div, I'll add a class name, and we'll say flex. Then we'll have a gap of 3, and we'll say items to the center. I save, and that will add some spacing between the two and also the theme. Now another thing is that this logo and this right here, so basically this logo and this section should be side by side. So we will wrap the two with a div. So right here we'll say div, and I'll take these two sections and I'll move them in there just like that, and we'll add some class names to this parent div. Okay, so we'll say class name, we will flex, so that will already take them to be side by side like that. Then we will justify between, and that will create the space between them just like that. So we now have the logo here, sign in and sign up on the other side, which is really cool. You can also add items to be center. So now we have this. Let's sign in. I'll continue with Google, and once I am logged in, you'll see now at the end here we have this user button instead of the sign in and the sign up, so we can manage our account from there. Pretty awesome. Now at the middle here we will be having a search bar. Right now it's not visible because I hide it on small screens, but if we go on a larger screen, you'll see we have that search bar, and we can actually go ahead and include it right now, even though we won't write all the logic for it. Okay, so for now I save this right there, and Control B to open this right here, and I'll go to components. At the root of components, I'll add a new file called search input.tsx, just like that. And right here we'll say stateless functional component, just like that, and we'll say this is the search input. This will have a div, and it will also be a client component, so use client like that. I go ahead and save. For this search bar, we'll make use of an input component from Shadcn. So right here, if I click on the tab here, scroll down, you can look for the input component, and we will need to install an input component. So I'll go ahead and copy this command, and I'll pop the terminal, Control J, paste the command here and hit enter. So that will install our input and we'll make use of it right here. Let's go ahead and bring in the input component and make sure that it's from UI input. Remember, these components are being added at our UI right here. Right now we have installed a button, and now we just installed these input component. Okay, they are coming just right here at our components. Okay, sorry. So here you make sure that it's from UI input, just like that. Then we can self close it. So for now we'll say placeholder here to be search, and we can add a class name after the placeholder, and for the class name, padding to the left will be 10, and then bg will be primary, then stroke 10. We don't see it because we should hook it up at our navbar, so let's just first hook it up. So we'll do it between our logo and this other part for our user button. So right here I'll say search input, just like that, and I save, and now we should be seeing this search right there. So you can see we included some spacing here, and we can actually go ahead and include an icon right there. So to include that icon, we'll be making use of Lucid React icons. So here you can search for lucid.dev/icons, and from here we'll go and say search, and you can choose the search button that you want. I'll go with this one. If I click on it, you'll see the way that we can make use of it right here, just like this. Okay, so I'll copy that particular icon, or you can click on JSX here to copy it. Then if you go to search input right here and paste, and then you use control space, you'll see that we already have this Lucid React right here because it was automatically installed whenever we installed a Shadcn. So you just need to auto import this particular icon, and then right here we can give it some class names. Okay, we can say that it's absolute, and whenever we say absolute, that means that the parent here should be relative. Okay, we say this is relative like that, then this is absolute to this, which makes sense. Then we'll give it a height of 4, width of 4, we'll give it a top of 3, left of 4, and we'll set text to be muted and foreground. So that is the color. I'll go ahead and save. If we check now, it's positioned right here. Now another thing that we can do, maybe instead of hiding on MD, I can say SM, which is on small screens we will hide. So on small screen and larger we will display block, but on very small screens we will say hidden. I save, and now let's see if I decrease the size here to be very small, we are hiding it, and if it's a bit larger we show it. So next, let's work on this particular icon right here for theme. So we'll work on light and dark mode next.